Hi, my name is Dominic Stiller, and I'm here with Patricia Maheka for a joint meeting of the Queens CB1 Joint Committee meeting of the Transportation and the Environmental Committees. First order of business was I would like to take attendance from the Transportation Committee. I'll do so. Kian Betancourt.
Here.
Hello. Adam Fox. Shahanaz Hamdi.
Here.
Yuma. Tom Ryan.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
Hi.
Hi. Daniel Aliberti.
Present.
Hello, Mr. President. Amin Mahedi. Nas Magutas, who co-chair Nas Magutas.
Hey, what's up?
Chair Dominic Stiller. Yes. Mario Vergara. Mario Vergara. Phyllis Para. Marie Torniali. Patricia, would you like to take your attendance and then introduce the first speakers?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Patricia Maecha here. Let's see, Bobby Feltout. Bobby.
Present. Here.
Thank you, Bobby. Vanessa Jones Hall. Vanessa Jones. Okay, Raga Medela. Juliet Pajabiap. Dominic Childer.
I'm here, Dominic Stiller.
Yes, Ryan Van Manen.
I'm here. Hello.
Thank you, Ryan. Mario Vergara. Okay.
Tricia, you have a public member, Deanne?
Yes, Dion Gorman. Dion?
Present. Hi.
Hi, Dion. Okay. So Dominic,
I didn't get Ryan's last name. Sorry to be annoying.
that's okay. Ryan Van Manen.
Van Manen.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So we have two presentations tonight, and then we have an introduction discussion about the capital and expense items. Patricia, would you introduce the first presentation?
Sure.
Thanks.
We're pleased to have with us a representative from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, who will be presenting on a proposed battery energy storage system. This is an important topic for our community as it directly relates to sustainability, energy efficiency, and environment impact. Tonight's presentation given will be an opportunity to learn more about the project, ask questions, and better understand how it benefits our neighborhood. So with this, I'm going to present Raquel Moss.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Just to do some quick introductions, my name is Raquel Moss. Once again, I'm the Community Outreach Manager here for the LaGuardia Redevelopment at Port Authority. I'm here accompanied by my co-manager, Takoya Jones, our Deputy Chief of Intergovernmental and Community Relations for Port Authority, Hirsch Perek, as well as Scott Kessler, who is part of Port Authority's Sustainability Office and Department. He will be presenting to you today, as Patricia did speak to, about battery energy storage, and the location for that will be actually at the Elm Jack ball fields. So he will be speaking to you, he'll be presenting, and him and the project team will be able to speak to you regarding that, and you're welcome to ask any questions at the completion of the presentation. So without further ado, Scott.
Thanks, Raquel. As Raquel mentioned, my name's Scott Kessler. I work in the Port Authority's Office of Sustainability, where I serve as the Renewable Energy Program Director. My job on a day-to-day basis is primarily made up of trying to develop renewable energy projects across the Port Authority facilities, which includes LaGuardia Airport. We've been working on a project for quite some time and have partnered with a project developer, Caliburn Energy. I have two representatives of Caliburn Energy here with me tonight. Doug, perhaps maybe you and Brian can do some quick introductions, and then I'll get into the presentation.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. My name is Doug Telemann. I am a business development director at Caliburn Energy. Happy and excited to be working on this project with Scott. And look forward to this presentation. And I'll pass the mic to my good friend, Brian Hurley from Siemens.
Hello, evening, everybody. Thanks for your time. Brian Hurley, business development at Siemens, and within our distributed energy team, doing both energy efficiency and distributed energy projects, and have been working on this LaGuardia project for a couple of years now, and very excited to have the opportunity to bring it forth and answer any questions that you guys have.
Great. Well, thanks so much. I just put a request in to share my screen. I don't know who exactly that went to, but if someone could just give me access, I can bring up some slides for this presentation. Perfect. All right. So can everyone see my screen? Yep. Okay, great. So as mentioned, we're here today to talk about a solar and battery storage project that we have envisioned for LaGuardia Airport, and gearing this presentation for folks in the community who may be interested on it. What we're going to go over is, first, we're just going to review in general what are battery energy storage systems, then talk about some of the benefits, talk about the safety considerations, and then lastly, go over the project in some detail to let you know exactly what we're going to be expecting to occur in the area. So what is a battery energy storage system? Well, it's very similar to what it sounds like. It is a battery, just at a much larger scale than what you probably are used to if you're thinking of a AA or AAA battery. These are large battery packs, and they are taking energy from one point in time and moving it to another point in time. So sometimes that is energy coming directly from a solar generation. You could have this be paired to any other type of energy generation device, or you could even have it take energy directly from the utility grid and then put it back onto that same utility grid at a later time. So really, it's just an intermediary to take energy from one point in time to another. The way they do this is they're using advanced stable battery chemistries, such as lithium iron phosphate, and they're doing this at such a scale that it can impact the distribution grid. So that's the network that Con Edison manages. There are some of these projects that are even getting so large that they impact what's known as the transmission system. That's what's used to move electricity from one part of the state to the other, not just one neighborhood to the other, but traveling hundreds of miles. Those are much larger systems than what we're talking about today, but you're seeing these systems get deployed in a whole variety of use cases now, from very small to very large. In general, battery storage is becoming a bigger topic just because it pairs very nicely with renewable energy. Renewable energy obviously is not available at all times. The sun doesn't shine at night, the wind doesn't blow all the time, and battery storage is a way to move that energy from when it is most plentiful to when it is most needed. Those two things are not always in alignment. And the battery storage is highly tested, it's heavily regulated and safe. So one point I always like to make is that this is a very different technology than what might be used in your phone. It's a very different technology than what's used in e-scooters, and it's different than many other types of batteries. You know, these have to go through much more rigorous testing and safety standards, and we'll talk about what some of those are. So why is Port Authority in particular interested in looking at battery storage? Well, primarily because Port Authority has established some very strong sustainability goals, and we need to basically pull almost every lever we can to try to achieve these goals. We want to reduce our emissions by 50% by 2030, and we're looking to achieve net zero on all emissions by 2050. And so battery storage is going to help us get there. You know, it's one way that we can increase the amount of renewable energy that we can provide at our sites. And in addition, battery storage actually comes with its own carbon benefit. because very often you are using electricity when the grid is less carbon intensive, and you are releasing that energy when you would be using more carbon intensive energy sources. So you're taking energy from low carbon times and moving it to high carbon times and reducing carbon that way. Port Authority is already installing battery storage at JFK Airport under construction today, and we're considering it at multiple other facilities, including LaGuardia. Port Authority goals pair nicely with what New York State is doing overall. So New York State is looking to get to 70% renewable energy by 2030, and also has a goal of getting to 100% renewable energy by 2040. They want, as part of this, they have a goal of deploying 1,500 megawatts of battery storage by 2025, with the goal increasing to 6,000 megawatts by 2030. They're going to reach that 2025 goal most likely because as of April of this year, they had already installed 1,400 megawatts. And as part of that goal across the state, they have already installed battery storage in over 1,500 homes. So typically those homes are going to look something like the image on the right there. You know, it could be a Tesla, could be some other product, but it's a smaller scale battery at a home. On the top right there, you see something that you might think of as a little bit more commercial scale. So, you know, this isn't so huge that it's taking up, you know, massive amounts of space, but you do need a little bit of, you know, a few thousand square feet sort of sectioned off for that type of installation. So you can see that the scale here varies as to, you know, depending on the size of the application. Just to get into a little more details of what these sites look like, those boxes in white there that sort of look like lockers that are painted white, those are the batteries themselves. They are sort of individual modules is often what they're described as, and each locker sort of represents a module. And in between each of these white battery storage areas, you can see electrical transformers and controls. Those are in green in the image here. That's pretty typical for any system that's going to be using electricity. That is going to control when the batteries are going to be taking energy from the grid, when they're going to be injecting it onto the grid, conditioning that electricity so that it is of the appropriate power quality to get sent back onto the grid so it doesn't cause any problems, and basically being the brains of the operation. In addition, you also have some protective fencing to ensure that, you know, everything stays inside that we want to stay inside and everything stays outside that we want to stay outside. There's a setback area to allow work to happen if it's necessary. And you can even see there in this installation, there was some trees and shrubbery put in to sort of help with the aesthetics of it. Sometimes that's just put in so it fits in with the area. Sometimes it's put in as a visual blocker. But oftentimes, you know, there is some work that's done to pretty it up. So to speak more about the benefits of battery storage, really we view there as being 4 discrete areas of benefit. Number 1 that we discussed is it's supporting renewables development. So when the sun isn't shining, the wind isn't blowing, we can still have access to renewable energy and help support grid decarbonization. Also, we're reducing emissions from fossil fuels. So if you think about maybe July, August, the hottest days of the year, when Con Edison is asking you to reduce your energy use, that is because the grid is stressed and they are projecting that we may not have enough energy to meet our demand. So what happens is that they turn on every single generation source they have, including what's known as peaker power plants. And these are the dirtiest power plants that they usually don't run for 90–95% of the year, but they do turn them on at these absolute moments of stress. And so what batteries do is they are taking energy from times where energy is abundant, oftentimes at night, and they're going to be making it available to us at 3 p.m., 4 p.m. when the grid is at its absolute peak stress moment. So we are helping reduce the amount of time that those peaker plants have to be online, and therefore reducing the amount of emissions and pollution coming from those power plants. Batteries also help us with reliability and resiliency. In the event of an outage, a battery can be used to allow a site to stay online. They can also provide support to the grid to ensure that the power quality stays where we need it to be. Oftentimes you might experience something like a brownout because you're having voltage swings. Batteries can help avoid those voltage swings. And then lastly, we actually are reducing the grid cost, because what happens is as you deploy more and more batteries, you help someone like Con Edison avoid much larger expenses like substations that can be hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. You push those expenses out by some numbers of years. And that, of course, is to the benefit of all Con Edison customers. The less Con Edison has to spend on substations, the cheaper your electric rates are. And in this project, actually, we are going to be connecting directly to the Con Edison system. And so there's a direct connection between these battery storage systems that LaGuardia will be putting in and the ability to reduce local grid costs in the area. So for battery storage, one of the things that is always front of mind is safety. As I mentioned at the top, these battery storage systems are using very different chemistries than other battery devices and are considered considerably safer. So we know oftentimes there's a lot of headlines today about e-bikes and scooters in apartment buildings. They often start fires. That is because that is an industry that is not heavily regulated. You can buy an e-bike or scooter online from anywhere in the world, and there is no guarantee that there has been any safety thought put into that product. Battery storage is the complete opposite side of the spectrum. There is not only extreme oversight from the Fire Department of New York, these things also get reviewed by the Public Service Commission, the New York State Energy Research Development Authority. They also are heavily involved in making sure that batteries are safe. And you've got a large number of reputable agencies that are sort of putting their stamp on battery storage as something that New York State should be doing and that it is safe for us to be doing. Speaking of the fire department, FDNY has the most rigorous battery storage safety standards in the world. It took them the better part of a decade to get to an agreement with developers where they started to allow any battery storage in New York City, and that is a somewhat recent development that we've gotten there. So if you were to go back 10 years in time, there was almost no battery storage in New York City because the fire department did not let them do it. And only in the past recent years has the fire department really let up on that because they've been convinced the technology's gotten to a place where it's acceptable. Since 2019, there's over 25 battery storage systems now in New York City in every borough, and that's including in residential communities. So far, there have been 0 battery storage fire safety incidents in New York City, and we hope it stays that way. The Tesla products that we're using as part of this project, they comply with multiple safety standards, including from the National Fire Protection Agency, the International Electrical Commission, and the National Electrical Commission. These are all standards that set standards for building codes and for other entities that permit these projects. And so they are really the entities that need to approve these things so that any local municipality that is using a IEC electrical code, can be assured that it's been looked at by the experts and signed off on. These battery storage systems, they include built-in fire mitigation. And on top of that, they also have a supplemental sprinkler system that is required by New York City. They also come with 24/7 monitoring. In the case of this project, that would be by Calibrant Energy to ensure that there are no deviations. And if anything occurs at the site, there's someone who's made immediately aware of it. So now I want to talk a little bit about what the project is exactly we're looking to do at LaGuardia. So at LaGuardia Airport, we are looking to do a number of solar installations and then 2 battery storage sites. So you can see there on the map on the left, on the main campus of LaGuardia, we are looking to install solar at 5 different sites. This is a mix of both parking structures where we are putting in a carport. So think of that as a steel structure that basically goes above the cars, and the solar panels live above the cars. So they're basically providing some shade to the cars while also producing solar electricity. In addition, we are looking at some rooftops that are currently not being used for anything else and putting solar panels on top of those. And then when we leave the central campus area and move towards the western side of LaGuardia Airport, you can see there in what's noted as Ingram's Mountain and the construction laydown area that's just north of the ball fields there, we're both looking to do solar and battery storage there. So the solar, again, at Ingram's Mountain is going over a parking lot. That's Ingram's Mountain. And the 2 battery storage sites are going on plots of land that we'll zoom in on the next slide. And those plots of land are currently not being used for other purposes. All of these assets that I mentioned are going to be built, owned, and operated by Calibrant Energy in what's known as a P3 deal. The project is going to result in 4 megawatts of solar and 10 megawatts of battery storage, and will result in greenhouse gas emission reductions of about 2,200 tons per year. And that's roughly equivalent to the emissions from 500 cars or 300 homes. So a significant project for us and one that we're very much looking forward to. The project also will improve the reliability of the local Con Edison network. As I just mentioned, those 2 battery storage systems are going to connect directly to Con Edison and provide support and benefits to it. And we are expecting construction for this project to last from 2026 to 2028 in a phased manner. We're not expecting that any one site is going to take 3 years, but as we are trying to do 6 different solar installations and 2 different battery sites, progressively that will take 3 years. Zooming in a little bit on those sites on the west end. So there's the 2 battery storage sites. The map on the right there shows one, north of the Elm Jack Ball Fields area, and then one next to the Ingrams Mountain parking area. And you can also see what the access route is to those for any trucks or anyone who would need to participate in the construction. As far as the construction goes, the battery storage, it is assembled at a factory off-site. So it basically comes on a flatbed truck, pretty much fully assembled. You need to lay some concrete at the site, so there's a nice stable location for it. And then a crane takes it from the truck, places it on that concrete pad. You have some electrical work where you need to interconnect the pieces and tie it to the Con Edison grid. And that is essentially the construction that would be expected for the battery storage. So it's a little bit more limited. Solar projects, you're often sort of doing the construction on site. Things aren't really coming pre-assembled from the factory. Battery storage has the advantage of being able to do a lot more in the factory. So we're expecting that on site to take about 5 weeks for those battery storage sites, potentially less, but we think 5 weeks on the conservative side. Construction is expected to happen during normal business hours, with the exclusion of Monday to Friday from 3 to 10 p.m. and Saturday to Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Those are the windows that we believe the community most uses those sites, and so we wanted to make sure that we are not doing any work at these sites while the community is there. At the Elm Jack site, there's a 5-mile-per-hour speed limit. That's that red dotted line that you see that it sort of looks like it's going through some trees. That's actually a pre-existing road that was used previously for LaGuardia redevelopment. And we've also made sure that the contractor knows that there should be no littering or anything else, that this is a publicly used site. It is not a construction site like any other. It is one that should be considered to be part of the public. Once construction's done, we expect there to be about 1 to 2 visits by a passenger vehicle annually. This is really just someone coming to check on the site, make sure that physically everything's looking the way that it should, and that the sensors are giving information accurately and correctly. From the ball fields at Elm Jack, there's going to be a separation of at least 100 feet, including protective fencing. And from the nearest residential area, it's at least 1,200 feet, and more so from most of the residential areas. So I think that's our summary today of our slides. I'm happy to sort of pause here, take any questions that folks might have.
Scott, there were some questions inside of the chat. I believe Persh might have addressed them in the chat, but if there are any other questions, Dominic, I don't know how you unmute people unmute themselves.
Sure, no, I'll chime in. Patricia, would you like to lead the order of questions and would you like to run the meeting since it's kind of the environmental committee just by hands? And I'm going to join the crew putting my hand up too. Thanks.
Okay. So let's see who has Don Aliberti. Did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Good evening.
Okay.
I have a question, 2 questions. One is about the Elm Jack location, and will you be digging up the street to put cables in from there to the power station? I'll let you answer that, and then I have another question.
So as of right now, we think the answer is no. The reason why I cage that answer so slightly is just because one part of this project that we still have to go through is an approval from Con Edison. So we wanted to do the public outreach early in the project. So we don't yet have every last detail. So once we sort of have finalized a contract with Calibre Energy, we'll move into the next phase of the project. Part of that is getting agreement with Con Edison as to exactly where the interconnection will go. But we are aware that these are very heavily trafficked areas, and we are very aware of the fact that any disturbances are going to be a disturbance and want to avoid them at all costs. So while I can't give you every exact detail of the construction today, we don't think that will be the case.
So do you have a commitment that there will be a connection to Con Edison? Just not about the logistics of it. Is that the case?
We don't yet have a commitment from Con Edison because we haven't submitted a formal application to Con Edison for that commitment, if that makes sense. So we wouldn't expect to have one at this point in the project.
and I'm a little confused. You're presenting this project to us, but you don't have an agreement with Con Edison. So, will you be coming back to tell us what really is going to happen?
Well, we wanted to sort of make folks aware of it early on in the process, and then as we go on, get fully permitted, get on and on the project, we're happy to come back and present on if the details change. Today, this is the project that we envision happening, we think is most likely to happen, but you know, we didn't want to come here and say, we've signed agreements, we're already doing something, and we're just telling you about it. We really wanted to be proactive and tell you about it in advance.
So your plan is to get an agreement with them and get all the plans together and then come back to us and let us hear this all over again?
I
Am
think
I
in general,
correct?
and Hirsch, if you see it
Oh,
differently,
let me-
feel free to jump in, but that's...
Let me jump in. Yeah, this is Hirsch. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so as this is Hirsch from Port Authority. So as Scott said, we don't anticipate any issues with Con Ed, but to the point of wanting to come early and not after a deal, to the extent anything has changed, once we have an agreement in place with Con Ed, we're happy to come back and present updates to the project plan that from what we presented today. But as of right now, our expectation is that it will be the plan that we don't anticipate it. But again, if there are any modifications or changes, we'll make sure to communicate.
Is there a ballpark on the time that you expect them to sign an agreement, a permit?
From the date we submit our application to them, I believe they aim to have a 90-day turnaround. So we are expecting we'd probably be submitting an application to them in the early part of next year, we would expect.
So say January of next year, you submit your paperwork, and by April or so, you would get an answer from them, and then you'd come back to us and let us know what's going on. Is that what would happen here?
Yeah,
That what we're
roughly on
looking
that
at?
time frame, give or take a few weeks here or there, you know, as projects shift, but that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay,
again,
well,
I'll
then
just
my other
note, you know,
questions, I
to
don't
the
need to
extent-
ask any other questions because there's nothing much happening yet.
Well, I'll just say to the extent that there are changes, right? If there are no changes to what we presented, we will just communicate back to the district manager, right? That look, we have the agreement, everything as we presented. You know, this is sort of our schedule.
Thank you.
I just see this meeting as being so preliminary that I'm not even sure why we're doing it. But maybe Dom, can you kick in here and say something?
Yeah, I would be
Yes,
happy.
hold on. Yes, hold on a minute. I just want to ask something. Considering the airport proximity to the water and its vulnerability to severe storms and what protective measures are being put in place to safeguard the solar infrastructure and battery storage systems?
So this is not distinct from other Port Authority projects. We have our resiliency standards. They require all critical infrastructure to be a certain level above the flood zone. I would have to check and see, but these sites actually are much more elevated than you might expect. I know the one on the top seems close to the water, and it is in terms of distance, but it's actually quite elevated on a hilltop. So we'd have to sort of check. I don't know the exact numbers on it, but I don't think we're expecting there to require a significant amount of elevation for these to be out of the flood zone.
Okay. Tom? Tom Bryan?
Yeah, hold on one second. You there?
Yes.
My question is a doom and gloom question. Some of the answers have already been questioned. The possibility of fire, the possibility of floods, any environmental concerns, and any thoughts regarding protection against terrorism.
All good questions. Maybe I'll invite Doug, if you don't mind taking that one. You've got a deeper expertise on battery storage and safety, and maybe better if you speak to that one.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. I'll try to remember. I think there were four
Yes.
questions there. So as it relates to fire safety, as Scott had indicated in his presentation, the risk of fire in this particular type of equipment with this particular lithium ion phosphate chemistry is very low. Also, as Scott had indicated, there are built-in fire mitigation systems within these units. In addition, there are thermal detection devices within the units such that, like, if the interior temperature rises above a particular point, we are notified immediately and can shut these things down remotely if necessary. If there were a thermal event, which is extraordinarily rare and unexpected, these battery modules are encased in steel enclosures, and any thermal event would expect to be isolated within those steel enclosures. So overall, I would classify fire risk as very low. As it relates to flooding, as Scott had indicated, these areas where the battery deployments are being contemplated are not flood zones. And we looked at, LaGuardia policy and procedures and requirements, and we believe that it's perfectly reasonable to install these at ground level at these locations. Certainly, they would not have any effect or impact on the probability of floods occurring, and we do not expect that if flooding did occur, it would affect these particular areas. That's part of the reason why they were selected. As it relates to terrorism, I think that this equipment would be secured by the Port Authority the way they secure the rest of their property against terrorism. But it's important to note that the chemistry within these battery systems are not explosive in nature. So these are not, this is not equipment that can be detonated to create an explosion or anything like that. It is surrounded by protective fencing and is monitored 24/7, both by a human being as well as by, computerized surveillance systems. I think I answered 3 of the questions. I feel like maybe I might have missed one. So if you can
Last
remind
one
me.
was just the environment. Is there any
Oh,
environmental impact?
Yeah. No environmental impact. There's no runoff from these devices. There's no chemicals or other ingredients that would run off and leach into the soil
No
or
emissions.
anything of that nature. There are 0 emissions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for the question, and Douglas for your response. Dominic?
Thanks, Patricia. So a few things. In answer to Doug, your question at the end there was about how will the project affect the community, and I guess that's kind of based on how far apart the solar panels are from the batteries. But we don't, Scott, you don't have solar panel locations yet, or you do? Like, are they also on Ingram Mountain?
Yeah, so 2 things probably to note here. I mean, number one, there are planning to be solar panels here on Ingram's Mountain, this large parking lot to the south of the red dotted line on the left. But one thing to know is that you could do this battery storage project without the solar. And at the site on the right, the Elm Jack, it actually is being done without solar. So, as I mentioned, there's a few different use cases for battery storage. One of them is to support solar, which you could think of as being the one on the left. One of them is just to support the grid directly, which is really what the one on the right is doing without any solar whatsoever. So, sometimes you'll do battery storage with solar, but oftentimes it's done without it.
Sure. So number 2, I just want to make a comment that although there have been e-bike fires, there's a bunch of us actually on the committee that do commute primarily with e-bikes, and there are majority of e-bikes are safe and the batteries are safe, and I'm sure that they have a certain degree of regulation. You kind of implied they had absolutely none. I think that the fires are caused by rebuilds, people rebuilding, just like if someone got into your batteries here and started rebuilding them without any controls, it would be a disaster also.
I did not mean to impugn e-bikes as an entire category, just simply to say it is possible to get an e-bike that perhaps isn't as heavily regulated as battery storage systems.
Just thrown out there. Understood. And then, yeah, my last comment, or my first comment, was about just that clarification about the solar. So you intend to put the panels on the parking lot on the left, and basically your main significance is to alleviate the grid by just taking energy from anywhere, renewable or not, and store it in these batteries for the community's use, for LaGuardia Airport's use. Would it be primarily for the airport? Is it a emergency backup for the airport first?
So the power is going directly to the Con Edison network. So it's not providing backup to the airport. Okay. As to the question as to whether or not it's for the community's use, in a sense, yes, but maybe not in the way you're thinking. So, it supports the local distribution system, and so will have benefits for everyone who uses the grid in this area. But I can't say that there's going to be a direct credit on your bill because of this battery storage. It's not quite that one-to-one benefit.
No, I understand that. I just think that there has to be some way that it's prioritized over those peak only, polluting power plants that you mentioned. Like, it's got to be coordinated with that, or there's really no environmental. Does that happen automatically? Does your power go right?
The way that's achieved is basically Con Edison provides a price signal to developers, and they say, we will pay you X amount of money to discharge at this time. And the times at which they would be using those peak power plants is when they are providing the most money. That's when there's the largest incentive. So there's a whole revenue scheme designed to ensure that developers like Caliburn Energy are incentivized to discharge energy when the grid really needs it. And then they're going to try to charge their battery when it's really cheap. That's usually at night when the grid doesn't need it quite so much.
Okay, so is this primarily a Port Authority project, or is it a private Calverton? You say Calverton, right?
Calibrant.
Calibrant. And what's Calvin Energy? Did I miswrite that?
I think you just probably misheard. I probably may have garbled it. It's Calibrant. Calibrant.
So Doug is from Calibrant.
Yes.
Sorry, I had you down as from Calpin. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is what we call a P3. It's a public-private partnership, and you can think of it as both a Port Authority project and a private project. Similar to, the way we run a lot of our terminals, for example, is that terminal isn't run directly by Port Authority, but we, of course, operate the airport, and so we do it in partnership with that terminal operator. This is done in the exact same fashion, except instead of a terminal operator, here we have a solar and battery storage operator.
Understood. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Dominic. Someone else had a question? Albricia?
Yes, hi. I'm sorry for interrupting. But it's just that I'm not sure if I am in the right meeting, because I was supposed to be in a transportation meeting about the new bus changes. So I don't know if this is the right meeting for that.
Albricia, the agenda of this meeting is not intended to cover new bus route changes.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, someone else had a question? Dan?
Yes, I have another question. A few years ago, we had an issue come before the board, and it was a power plant being installed in the area, and it was going to be a smaller output than the previous power plant. And I had asked the folks at that time, what happens if we need more electricity, comparable to what the old power plant had been putting out. And I was told that the gap would be filled in by batteries. And I said, well, where are the batteries coming from? And well, we don't have any arrangements yet, but we will have some arrangements in the future. Is this what we're talking about?
Without knowing the exact context in which you had that conversation, it's tough to say exactly, but it would be a fair assumption that whoever you were speaking to was probably talking about the fact that the state had plans to incentivize large amounts of battery storage. This project is receiving incentives from the state, so therefore it's probably safe to say there's a connection there without knowing the details.
Yeah. And Scott, I can add for the benefit of the question asker. So New York will often conduct procurements specifically for what are known as non-wires alternatives or NWAs, which typically will involve battery storage projects. And I know that there are some non-wires alternative procurements going on right now in various areas of the city. And New York City is continuing to conduct these procurements to do exactly what you're pointing out, to kind of fill in the gaps and to allow the power grid to operate more efficiently.
I would also just add, from a policy standpoint, that what maybe the plant that was being considered was a natural gas peaking plant. And directionally, and from a policy standpoint, and from an environmental objective standpoint, a goal is to put more battery storage in lieu of natural gas peakers. And that may have been the type of power plant that was previously being considered.
I think that probably is what it was. So this is filling a gap then?
Yes, that'd be fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just add on to a little bit something that Scott had said prior in response to a question about, how does this benefit the community? And Scott pointed out these various programs that are put in place by the utility to incentivize the battery operator, Calibrant Energy, to dispatch power at very specific times. And the reason why they do that is because, based upon their own forecasts, they expect the most stress to occur on the power grid during those times. So the ability for them to have essentially power on demand whenever they need it on very short notice, that provides, a tremendous service to the grid, avoiding, potential brownouts or blackouts that could possibly occur on that particular circuit or feeder. And that is a benefit to any business or resident that lives in the area that's serviced by that circuit or feeder.
Thank you. I have a question about the batteries themselves in the eastern, the Elm Jack area installation. So there'll be numerous batteries, physical batteries there, and they'll be connected to each other and then out. However, batteries have life expectancies. And are you laddering those batteries so that they don't all die at the same time and need to be all replaced at the same time?
No, there wouldn't be a staggering of the installation, but maybe a question that might be a follow-up either by you or someone else. You're absolutely right. These batteries do have life cycles. Warranties on them typically run 15 to 20 years, so it's a very long life cycle. And part of our project and agreements with the Port Authority will include our plans for decommissioning, recycling, or otherwise responsibly disposing of them when their life cycle is complete. And then, should Port Authority wish to do so at that time, replacing them with whatever the, most current and modern technology is at that time.
But at the moment, there's not a policy to ladder them or stagger them or anything like that. Is that right?
That is correct. And such a policy would likely be kind of counterproductive to their intended purpose. So we, want to be able to maximize the value to LaGuardia, the community, and ourselves from day one of the project.
Well, you're talking with the community board, and we are a planning board. We plan for the future, and that's why this is an important question to us.
Understood.
You understand?
Yes.
All right, I'm finished. Next.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else had a question? No questions? Well, let me ask you a question. Do you guys have a plan to educate the schools or the community around the area about it so they don't get confused? Because we have so many issues with lithium and everything. So I think, I don't know if you have a plan to educate the community or the schools.
So we would welcome the opportunity. If any community member or organization, wished to learn more about the project, or the technology, science students, for instance, or kids interested in getting into the STEM fields. We often do this as a part of our regular community outreach, and we'd be happy to consider that for this project. There's no existing laid out plan, but is something that we do quite often on a routine basis, and we would be happy to do it if anyone were interested.
Let me just jump in here. This is Hirsch again. So Port Authority for the last several years has been sponsoring an aviation-focused STEM program at a couple of libraries in the local community. They're usually summer programs. And so we'll sort of discuss internally and see if there's a way to incorporate this technology into that program. So it's a great idea, and we're happy to, review it and see what's possible.
Thank you.
Hirsch, can I just get your last name for my minutes? I know we met you before, and I know you run to the other CB, but I don't have your last name.
Parekh, Parekh.
Thanks. Okay, so I have a few questions, Patricia, as we transition.
Yes.
Go
ahead, Dominic.
A few comments to Doug. Just rattling off these things quick, so yes, no answer or answer. So who owns this land? The city owns this land, right or wrong?
So, yes, the city owns the land and has a lease with Port Authority, and then Port Authority is then leasing some of that space to Caliburn.
So you already have the lease on these two spots. I know you have Ingram's Mountain, so I imagine you do.
From the city, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Elm Jack and Ingram's is technically part of the airport.
Understood.
So it's part of our lease with the city for the airport.
And then number two, just to Doug, I guess just you. Well, two comments. One, I think we are in a flood zone, but possibly above a flood elevation. You said before we were not in a flood zone. Maybe that's because it's so close to the water. I would imagine it's a flood zone, but that's just that's minor. Two.
I'm sorry to interrupt. According to the area flood zone mapping,
FEMA,
these specific locations are not considered to be in flood zones, according to the research that we have done.
Okay.
Dominic, these areas are elevated. That's why.
Oh, I understand they're elevated. I still assume they're so close to the coast, but I guess that. Okay, good. Yeah, that was all. Lastly, Doug, you did mention that this would alleviate the other power plants, but we're still taking, and I'm a strong proponent of your project, guys, but you're still taking electricity at a planned time and you're throwing it into the grid. So the grid's important too in this case, in other words, for success of the whole distribution of this electricity, whether it's coming from your guys or the power plants. You know what I mean? You're not really alleviating the grid's pressure so much as the power plants. No, Doug?
Well, I'm not sure I understand necessarily the distinction between the two, but there's constantly power, flowing through, the utilities network on a pretty constant basis, but the demand for that power is not necessarily on a constant basis. For instance, on a hot day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the summertime, the demand is going to increase substantially, but the supply of power might not increase commensurately with the increase in demand, and that's what creates stress on the grid. So some of these programs that Scott described earlier will notify us, say, hey, we look like we're coming into a period of grid stress today between 4 and 6 p.m. Can you please put the power that's stored in these batteries to the grid during that specific 2-hour period, thereby alleviating the stress that would otherwise exist in that area without the presence of the batteries. And I don't know if that answered your question directly, but
Oh,
I
it sure
tried
does.
to.
It makes me aware that my definition of the grid might be a little too precise. So thank you so much. Patricia, would you want to make any closing remarks about this presentation? Or should I?
Yes, on behalf of the committee, I want to thank the Port Authority for their time and effort to bringing us the information. Thank you.
And
Thanks for
Patricia,
having us.
one last thing, if anyone has any other questions regarding this, I did leave my email address in the chat. So you are welcome to send me an email regarding any questions that you have, and we'd be happy to get back to you regarding that, okay?
Thank you, Raquel. Thank you.
No problem. Everyone have a great evening.
Thank you,
Same to
everyone.
you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Doug and Brian. Appreciate your time. So our second presentation is will be from the MTA, New York City Transit. So we've got Alan Foster and Luke DePalmer to present changes, plan changes for the F and the M train to be implemented in December of 2025 in a few months. So if you guys could definitely make sure to include news about your notifications in your presentation, it'd be much appreciated. Alan?
Sure. So thank you all for allowing us to come present tonight. My name is Luke DePalma. I work in government affairs for New York City Transit. Alan Foster is a rail planner from operations planning at New York City Transit. And today we are going to talk about something we've called the FM swap, which is basically swapping the routing of the F and M lines between Manhattan and Queens via what we call the 63rd Street corridor, which goes through Roosevelt Island, and the 53rd Street corridor, which goes into Long Island City. So just as a way of table setting here, this is an idea that's long been kicked around at the MTA. It's something that addresses many inefficiencies in the system that we've been running for decades. And we finally have come around to committing to implement this as a way of improving Queens Boulevard service on the F, M, R, and E lines for the sheer majority of customers. And we started socializing this and briefing elected officials and other stakeholders of the fall of last year when it was just a proposal. And we were basically, checking their temperature, seeing their feedback before we wanted to commit to doing anything. This past spring, we decided that we were going to move ahead, and we notified elected officials all throughout Queens and the affected areas of Manhattan. And then also we held a Zoom meeting of our own, two for the leadership at the community boards. And that was one for Queens and one for Manhattan. And now we're here at your forum where you're hosting it to give you the same kind of presentation. So with that, we have this PowerPoint here. Alan can kick it off, and then we can answer all your questions right at the end, okay? Alan?
Thanks, Luke. There we go. So this red box here in the middle of the slide, this is showing the area where the service change will be. Service outside of this red box will not change at all. So this is really the area we're focusing on here, where Queens Boulevard line and the EFM and R connect Queens and Manhattan. So this is a diagram showing the three tunnels that connect the Queens Boulevard line to Manhattan. There's, on the top here is 63rd Street, the 63rd Street corridor, which is currently served by the F. And then in the middle here, we have the 60th Street corridor, which is served by the R. And then on the bottom, the 53rd Street corridor, which is served by the E and the F. Now, with the current service plan, this requires a lot of merges between the different routes. Going in the Queensbound direction, the M diverges from the E, and then it immediately has to merge with the R, and the F has to merge with the E. Then after the M splits off from the E, the F merges in with it. So all of those merges mean that the schedules of these trains are all interconnected. So a delay on any one of these lines can end up affecting all 4 lines. So we want to simplify this in order to improve reliability and improve service to our customers. So this is the proposed, or not the proposed, the swap that we'll be doing later this fall. During weekdays, the M will be rerouted via 63rd Street rather than 53rd Street, and the F will go via 53rd Street, which it did many years ago. Some of you may remember that. You can see how it's much cleaner here. We've eliminated several of the conflicting movements there, and this should make service more reliable. So yeah, the overview here is it's a swap of the F and the M routes. Again, this is only happening weekdays between about 6 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. during the hours when the M train normally is operating along the Queens Boulevard line currently. So we're routing the F via 53rd Street line together with the E. The M goes via the 63rd Street line, 21st Street, Queensbridge, and Roosevelt Island. There'll be no change to service late evenings, nights, and weekends. So during those hours, the F will run via 63rd Street as it does today. And the M will run between Metropolitan Avenue and Essex Street late evenings and weekends as it does now. And it's an overnight shuttle in Brooklyn on late nights. And the change is limited to just the 53rd Street and 63rd Street corridors. Along the Queens Boulevard line, the F will still be a Queens Boulevard Express. The M will still be a Queens Boulevard Local. So who will see this change? So this affects service at 8 stations. The F currently serves 21st Street, Queensbridge, Roosevelt Island, Lexington, and 63rd Street, and 57th Street, 6th Avenue. After the swap, the F will serve Queens Plaza, Court Square, 23rd Street, Lexington Avenue, 53rd Street, and 5th Avenue, 53rd Street. Those stations also served by the E. Currently, the M serves Queens Plaza, Court Square, 23rd Street, Lexington, 53rd Street, 5th Avenue, 53rd Street. After the swap, the M will be serving 21st Street, Queensbridge, Roosevelt Island, Lexington, 63rd Street, 57th Street, 6th Avenue. So just for those 8 stations, the 2 lines will be swapping stations. So why do we want to do this now? As Luke mentioned, this is something we've been thinking about for a long time, but during 2023, 2024, we had the 63rd Street track replacement project, which you probably will remember, where the 63rd Street line service was curtailed, and we rerouted the F via 53rd Street, and we just had a shuttle train along 63rd Street. So not exactly the same thing that we're going to be doing later this fall, but somewhat similar in that it eliminated all those merging movements in the Queens Plaza area. And what we found was during this construction that our service was more reliable, running times were more reliable, people's trips were faster, and our on-time performance in the peak hours was better. So just having seen what the benefits were of this rerouting F via 53rd Street for this construction project made us take another look at this, and now we're moving towards implementation. So this is an operational improvement, providing better service for our customers through a route simplification. As I showed in that diagram, this eliminates a shared track segment between the E and the M. So the E will be sharing track with 2 lines as opposed to the current 3, and the M will share track with 3 lines as opposed to the current 4. So that reduces the delay risk to all 4 lines, the E, F, M, and R. And it also isolates delays so that the delays on the local will not affect the express and vice versa. Currently, we see that about 15 to 20% of rush hour E, M, and R trains are delayed at Queens Plaza, and that's because of all those mergers there, which we're trying to untangle. So what does this mean for customers? Well, there are some pretty broad-based benefits to this. It will increase reliability and reduce delays, improving service on the EF and M and R for all customers in Queens, and as well as along in Roosevelt Island and 21st Street, Queensbridge. This will result in a net travel time savings for most customers. 2.5 times more customers will benefit from shorter travel times than will see longer trips. It'll reduce crowding for riders at those 63rd Street stations like 21st Street, Queensbridge, because M trains are less crowded than our F trains. So that will be a benefit. The trains will show up at Queensbridge with room for people to get on. And it'll capitalize on a never before used direct connection between the 63rd Street line and the Queens Boulevard local stations. And I have another slide where I'll talk about that a little bit more. So there, of course, any change we make, there are always some drawbacks. There's a small number of customers who will see a travel time increase of 4 minutes or more. That's only 2% of our Queens Boulevard customers. And the other drawback is that during rush hours, the M is less frequent than the F, slightly less frequent. So customers at those 63rd Street line stations, including Queensbridge, will have about a minute of additional wait time on average. But as I mentioned, those M trains are a lot less crowded than F trains. So I know that now currently, by the time the F trains get to Queensbridge or Roosevelt Island, they're pretty full. So the M trains will have lots of room for people to board. And so yeah, talking about that connection between the local stations and 63rd Street. So once this swap is put into place, the stations at 65th Street, Northern Boulevard, 46th, Steinway, and 36th Street will now have direct service to 21st Street, Queensbridge, Roosevelt Island, and Lexington 63rd Street. Currently, to make those trips, you'd have to backtrack via Jackson Heights in order to make that trip. This now makes those trips possible. And for customers who need to reach 53rd Street, they just will transfer at Queens Plaza. So now, as I mentioned, the M is a little less frequent than the F. So when we did our initial round of outreach, we heard that people wanted us to make the M train more frequent. So we are doing that. We're adding M service in the AM and PM peak hours to reduce wait times for riders and kind of minimize the gap in service frequency between those two lines. So with the additional service, the additional wait time that M server or that 63rd Street line customers will see with the M will be about a minute on average. Somewhat offset by the improved reliability and decreased delays. And I'll hand it back to Luke.
Thanks, Alan. And so the addition of M service that Alan just spoke to was something that came out of feedback that we received during our earlier outreach that I had alluded to before we committed to making it public and making it a permanent change. We had heard from elected officials and other stakeholders that, in order to make the change more smooth for customers, it would be important to add M service. And another thing that we had heard as well was that rather than just come to, make changes to subway service at Queensbridge in Western Queens, we should really look to making the station conditions and the quality of life at that station and the experience for the customers better as well. So it wouldn't just be swapping the F and the M. The elected officials there, Senator Gonzalez, Assemblymember Mamdani, and your Councilmember Juan, they asked us to really take a look at Queensbridge and see what we could do to make that a better experience, so it's not just a customer service change, right? So one of the things that we've committed to is making about $2 million of investment upgrades to Queensbridge Station. So can you go back one more time, Alan? So that includes additional light fixtures, because there are some dark areas in the station that we'd like to reduce, replacing broken tiles along the ground, installing new yellow tactile platform edging, so that people can be better aware of the edge and the ledge into the track bed, and that's really an ADA feature for people with limited vision. Polishing glass, installing new drainage so there's less water infiltration everywhere. And you can go to the next slide. And then another thing here is installing this canopy at street level at one of the entrances so that customers have some rain shelter before they, as they enter and exit the station. And you can see the rendering there on the left, it's the existing one. This is across the street from the Queensbridge houses. And then on the right, this is the kind of canopy you would get. So there's some shelter as people are coming in and out. And also the station entrance is well lit and more visible. This is something that we're timing to be completed by December or by the end of the year in conjunction with the service change. Next slide. So the schedule next steps in May, like I said, in spring, we had committed to making this change. So it's not a proposal, it's planned. We are doing this in December. And we began that outreach that involved our own Zoom meetings with elected officials, and we invited the community boards to come to our Zoom meetings. And now we're, going to your homes, your community boards to present. And that's what this meeting is. So began in May. Fall, we're doing the presentations to the community boards, and we're also going to make sure our MTA board is fully briefed and aware, and they get all their questions answered. And then, like I said, in December, the implementation will be made, and that's a permanent change that we're going into. With any change of this kind of magnitude, the real big lift is on customer communications. So we've got to really get this work done, and that's what we're mobilizing with now. That includes the creation of new maps, look ahead posters, which are posters that we put up in affected stations so customers know what's coming, how their service is going to change. We've got some handouts, some take ones and brochures that are in development. We will share those with the community board, and anybody the community board suggests we send some to, we will do so. We'll have electronic copies, we'll have hard copies, and multiple languages. We're going to have a website that's dedicated to this, and we'll point that to you guys so you can see it. You can put that in newsletters and disseminate that as well. And we'll have digital communications on all our screens throughout the system, on trains and in stations, to make sure everyone is aware of what's happening. We'll have onboard train announcement and in-station announcements. And then we're also going to have customer communication signage changes, like these strips that you see on the right-hand side that's on the train. Those will be updated. And then we have the actual physical hard signs that you see, the porcelain signs, like the 21st Street Queensbridge Station on the top right. That's something that we would change. And we have to do that throughout all the affected stations. And then right at the time of the change, we will have customer ambassadors. Right now, you guys have experienced all summer the Queens bus redesign implementation. There are customer ambassadors at bus stops wearing vests with materials to hand out and answer questions. That's the kind of coverage that we're going to have in affected stations, and also wide swath, casting a wide net throughout the service area to make sure people going in and out of the changed areas know what to expect and how to get where they're going. It is a big change, but every station will continue to maintain 24/7 subway service as it does now, just with the swap between the F and the M during the daytime hours. Next slide. So that's the end of the presentation. The floor is yours for any questions here. And then, of course, if you have follow-up questions, it's best to go direct them to Florence, your district manager, and she can compile all those and get it to us, and we can make sure we get you all the answers you need. Thank you for your time. I'll just call on Tom here. I see Tom's hand is raised. Tom Ryan.
I have a quick question. First of all, what you're doing is a great idea. I'm asking about the M train in terms of future. The M train is the only train that goes almost entire loop. Is there any consideration of connecting Middle Village to Jackson Heights to make it a loop train?
So like extending the rail itself north of where it terminates in Middle Village?
They talk about the Rockaway branch. They talk about the Interborough branch. I'm thinking, what a great idea it would be if you could start at the M train and go in either direction.
Well, right now we actually do have this project called the Interborough Express that is going to utilize the right-of-way that you have that passes through Middle Village and goes up towards Queens Boulevard. And that's a new type of service that's in the planning stages now. we can get you more information about that. It's not an extension of the M. It's not technically, we're not settling on technically what would be a subway. It's more of a light rail, but that is an extension of service, an expansion of service that we are planning. And that's something I can get information to the board about.
Familiar, but so theoretically, Jackson Heights and Middle Village would be connected by that interborough.
Yes, and it passes
okay.
by the M, yeah.
Good.
Because that freight line there goes right by the Middle Village terminus of the M, and then goes up to Jackson Heights and Roosevelt Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
You've got it.
Ian?
Hey, thank you for the presentation. Generally a big fan of de-interlining proposals, so happy to see that's what you guys are working on here. Hope you get to DeKalb Junction next. But generally speaking, my only question here is, I know the M kind of alternates between A and B division, and I know more commonly it's used as, I think it's 8 cars as opposed to the 10 that are commonly used on others. There's a lot of stations, much like the G train, where you have to get to the middle of the platform because there aren't enough cars to fill up the station. I'm wondering, in addition to the more frequent service that you guys are running on the M line, is there any consideration, are there any changes to, first of all, the M train's length and then the F train's length now that it'll be running to Queens Plaza?
So and Alan, jump in if I'm wrong, right? But the determining factor for the length of the M train is the stations, correct? That it does serve.
Right.
That's correct, right?
Yeah. It's the stations at the sort of the Brooklyn end of the line are not long enough to accommodate 10-car trains.
And so that's the issue. So we have to keep it so it fits where it is on the Myrtle line, and then you end up with a slightly shorter train set as it goes to the rest of the line. The 10-car F, I think, is at its max. I'm not sure, but it would be the similar thing. It's based on the actual length of the stations that are served, and you have to be able to fit into the smallest one. And then also there's obviously your service guidelines and whether you need more space, more capacity. I think with the F and the E during rush hour going into Manhattan, there's always a need for more capacity. And that's one of the benefits of this swap here, because right now, Queensbridge and Roosevelt Island get the most packed F trains possible during the morning commute into Manhattan. That's the peak load point right there. And so people trying to get on those trains, they live one stop away from Manhattan, but they're trying to get on the most packed trains, and sometimes they can't even get in. With the M, they won't have that issue really. And so that's one of the benefits we see here. But again, I don't think there's a way to do more than 10 cars on the F.
Yeah, I guess my question was more so wondering, like, whatever service improvements you're getting by running less crowded trains to Queensbridge, how much of that is offset by having a smaller train length in general? You may have the same number of passengers, but just distributed more packly on the train due to the lower car amount.
I think we'll still have a generous amount more capacity, right, Alan? Do you have numbers for that?
I don't have numbers with me, but yes, when I said that the trains will have room, that's taking into account that the M trains will be 8 cars long.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say, Kian, I think your constant high quality responses in the chat are really appreciated on multiple subjects. They're not ignored. I'm just seeing them now because I'm multitasking here, but they're really appreciated. Evie, hi.
I try to do my research.
Yeah, you're great. Thanks. Evie?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I was at the briefing when you gave that a few months ago. And I guess, my question then was, who are the people who are going to see the longer wait times, right? And which station or stations? And if I recall, the answer was Queensbridge. And is that still the case?
Yeah, so it's Queensbridge and Roosevelt Island, let's say, where they're not getting the frequency of the F, and they're getting M service, but it's a slightly less wait time, or slightly more wait time. It's not a significant amount more, and they'll be getting the improved capacity of being able to actually get on those trains and not have to wait, and also the reliability improvements, because we're not having the crossing of local and express by Queens Plaza. So that's still the trade-off. We kind of call it, rather than like winners and losers, we want to say more like there's a trade-off to this, because there are benefits to doing this swap for Western Queens and Roosevelt Island, but certainly those are the folks. If you're and then the rest, it depends on where you're traveling from. If you're just going into the city from, you know, Eastern Queens, Island, like, I think that the general experience is just overwhelmingly better, or just solidly better, right?
Right, right. Because yeah, the trains won't get held up at Queens Plaza so often.
It's not a significant increase in the wait time for folks at Queensbridge. It's a minute here in rush hour or something like that.
Just a minute? That's I thought it was more than that, but
Can you bring it up again, Alan? Maybe a minute to 3, or Alan, you can correct me on the numbers.
No, that's right. These are the wait times. So
you're going from, maybe your average wait is 2 minutes with the F, and it's going to be about 3. Evening rush, 2 minutes to 3.
that seems different than what was presented before. So that's less than what
It's
I
possible
think
because
is
we
before.
committed to adding M service.
Okay, great.
And that's one of the feedbacks that we've received during conversations with you and others. So that's possible, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was going to go up to 6 minutes at the earlier presentation. So this is good to hear that it's been whittled down. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, if you could leave that up, your train comes every 6 minutes, so your average is 3 minutes. So that's how that works there. That's the stats. So the trains are 2 minutes less frequent, but the difference is 1 minute. So yeah, I understand that the users will benefit from the less crowded trains. So we'll move on to Mario. Hi, Mario.
Hey there. Sorry, I'm cooking. I want to get out of the kitchen. I just wanted to ask, does the additional capacity, does this mean more capacity on the Queens Boulevard line? And does that mean we'll see a return, or more of a chance of a return of the G train to the Queens Boulevard line?
This is independent of general overall capacity on the Queens Boulevard line. This is more about just disentangling service that we have at Queens Plaza, so that you're not running into these delays where trains are crossing in front of each other when we're trying to run trains almost every minute out there. So capacity on Queens Boulevard line, we're already running maximum F and E service right now. And I think it might be 15 trains in each direction. Alan, what is it,
right.
an hour?
Yeah, 15 trains per hour on the E and 15 trains per hour on the F.
Yeah, we are installing and implementing and getting, and preparing to activate in the coming years communications-based train control on Queens Boulevard line, and that is something that leads to theoretical capacity improvements. There's a lot of constraints that you have to work around to be able to say, yes, you have more capacity, but that's a resignaling system that operates trains basically safely in relation to each other rather than to where they are on the track. And so you're able to run trains closer together more frequently, and because you're able to know exactly where they are, whereas the current signaling system, trains have to occupy, you don't totally know exactly where they are. They have to occupy huge swaths of track to keep safe from each other and not have collisions, and therefore that limits capacity. So we are doing that upgrade. It remains to be seen what we'll be able to do then. But the return of the G is something that is not being planned. It's precluded by the fact that we have the two local, we have M and R service already for the local track, and then we have the F and the E at maximum capacity right now.
Thank you.
Another point about the G that is really important is running the G into the local track on the Queens Boulevard line would takeaway would require less R service, for example, and less M service. And that's the service that the sheer majority of Queens residents need because they're going into Manhattan. The G would not serve that kind of market and would take away service from people that are needing to get into Manhattan as the G just goes down into Brooklyn. So it's not something that would be very good for customers as a change anyway. It's better as a transfer. Correct, Alan? Alan's the expert.
Yep, that's right. Exactly.
Shahnaz.
Okay, I want to have a clarification about the M train. When the M train come to the 21st Queens Bridge, now will be taking the track for the F train, but as a local. Is this correct?
Yeah, during daytime when the M runs, the hours of 6 to what's the evening hour?
9:30-ish.
You'll have 6 a.m. to like 9:30, you'll have local M service, and then it'll make those local stops. So people in Queensbridge will have access directly to further local stops into Queens. But yes, and the F will be going over the E line.
I
But
know.
then
Sorry, my question is like when the M now coming in the track for the F in 21st Street,
yeah,
it going to go direct, taking the track in the morning, taking the track for
Yes.
the F train, then the F train go to the A train. Is this correct?
the F train is going to
To
be
the E
local.
train will in Queens Plaza, in
Right.
Queens Plaza.
In the morning,
Yes.
if you're going east to further into Queens, your train at Queensbridge is going to be a local train going into making local stops into Queens. And then with the Manhattan side, it's going to go rejoin the F down along 6th Avenue
Exactly. Thanks a
after a
lot.
couple.
Luke, I'm sorry, that confused me. So you're saying that in the morning, the F is rerouted onto the E line, but the eastbound train through 21st Street will still be the F going
No,
eastbound?
so during the hours, the daytime hours of 6 a.m. to about 9:30 p.m., what will stop at 21st Street Queensbridge is
the
M train,
both ways.
both directions.
Got
And
it.
that'll be a local going eastern into Queens, and then, it'll regroup as a regular M along 6th Avenue, Manhattan. The F during those hours will be just solidly express, not stopping at 21st Street. It has to return to 21st Street overnights and weekends because the M doesn't operate.
That may be confusing for
Yes.
people coming back from the city at 9:15.
That's feedback that we acknowledge and is legitimate and puts the burden on us to make sure we have excellent customer communications so people are aware and they know what train they're getting on during those hours. Yes.
Yeah, and
But
to
right
that
now,
point, sorry. Yeah, the M and the F both have new technology trains with electronic side signs and electronic strip maps and automated announcemements. And so the signage will say that this is an F via Queens Plaza or this is an F via Roosevelt Island, as will the audio announcements, so that you'll know when it's around that time where the service switches, it'll be really clear which way the train's going.
Sure. Plus, you can always, I see the R is also helpful if you get on the express by mistake. Yeah, I see that it says backup. Okay. Any other questions regarding this presentation? No. Okay. So it's 8 o'clock. So we want to thank Luke and Alan for your presentation. We always appreciate your time. We know you're very busy, and we try to, or at least I try to, live by the adage: let the professionals do their work. And I think, oh, sorry, Bobby's got a question. Bobby, was your hand? Oh, you don't have a question?
No, sorry, I was just doing
Clapping?
an applaud. Yeah, clapping for their presentation.
Mario's
Appreciated it.
also Mario. Understood. Thanks, Mario. Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, like I say, let the professionals do their job, and it sounds like you got a much more efficient design here. What eliminating the crossing? in the first slide. So thanks very much, Luke and Alan. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, guys. Good night. So, Patricia, the last part of our meeting is going to be basically Transportation Committee reviewing capital and expense budget items, which are due, I'm led to understand, a week before the October meeting. The October meeting, I believe, is October 21. So we're going to basically, I'll be addressing the Transportation Committee members, and we're not going to have input from the public or anything. I do want to do one thing, and that is just with my attendance, acknowledge some committee CB1 members who are here. So I see Elizabeth, thanks for joining, Christina, Kenyella, and Ryan. I see it says CB1. Ryan Van Manen. Are you here? Is Ryan on CB1?
Yeah, I'm a member.
Hi, Ryan. I don't know if I've ever met you, but I see it says CB1. Thanks for joining. And is there anyone else here from CB1 that I didn't put down? Bobby, I got you. I got you from the Environmental Committee.
Yeah, Ryan's on the Environmental Committee too.
Oh, is he? Okay.
I'm on.
I got you. I'll put you there. Control X. Perfect. So we're going to move now to discuss the capital and expense items. I was speaking to some of the members about the way we want to handle this, and with suggestions that we want to discuss tonight and look at the items from last year. So I think I would like to share, but I would like to ask the Transportation Committee members to, in the following week, take the Excel and rank the items themselves and send it back to me in an email so that I can do more of a tabular analysis of how everybody's ranking everything. This was discussed with NAS, and then we would get it to Evie and the office before October 14th, and preferably before next week's meeting.
And Amy, it should go to Amy, and you can copy me.
Right.
Yeah, they should go through the board office and Amy Howe and not to you, so that you're not
Understood.
doing business over email.
Okay.
So CC the
Understood.
board office and send it to Amy and Corinne. Corinne is co-chair.
Right. But what I'd like to get is an Excel CCing the board office and Amy to me, even through the board office is okay. And then
Yeah,
I'll just tabulate them all and record them all and what everybody puts and ranks them, and then see what the results are. But I think so one thing I'd like to do tonight is I will share. I'd like to roll through the items. I don't so I'm sharing a screen now. So I want this Excel. So I am sharing the this is actually the one I received from Florence today. This is the these are the DOT items only. No, they're not. Well, they are. They're combined here. Some capital and expense. So I'd like to just read through these, and then know that everybody got this from Amy, and ask them to rank them back to the board office, which will come to me. We'll put a deadline on it. We'll discuss it, and then go from there and get the information back to Amy. So,
Hey, Dom, before you start, I just want to check because the document that I pulled was not separated out by like the DOT asks specifically. It was just kind of all of them. Was there an email that had the one that you have in front of us right now?
So I
Is
got
that from
this.
the board office,
Yeah.
or was that from Amy?
Right. This is from the board office. This is the one from Amy that I called out, but I think that the one from the board.
That's the one that Amy sent. The one that the board office sent has different numbering systems. Do you want me to share my screen?
Hold on. Am I not sharing the one? Thank you.
No, you're sharing Amy's. The numbering is 551. No, that's the one Amy sent. You're sharing the other one. This is one that Amy sent to all the chairs. Like each chair got their copy.
This is the one you emailed me, right here.
This one is not.
No?
No, you want me to show you? I can pull it up.
One sec. Uno minuto. I am not going crazy. Badum badum. Email here from, so here is the one that I got from you. So if I were to download it, so that's the one you sent. Am I right?
That was from the morning from Amy. That's a copy from Amy.
No, this is what you, okay.
Let me share. I'll share for you. It'll take a second. Share. This one. And share. Can you see this? So the new system has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and you can rearrange it any way you want. See one. This is Amy's. This is all Amy's.
So I've lost the share of myself because I think
I asked you, I'm sharing.
Yeah, no, understood. I just didn't find it. I know you.
I'll shut it.
No, it's good. I see it. So, okay. In any event, can you maximize
I'll
it?
send it to all your, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't see it big? I see it as
I see
large.
it big, but I was hoping it could get bigger, but I do see it large, yeah.
I don't know how to remove the faces from the screen. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Understood.
I can email this to the entire committee.
Yeah, please do. Question, if so, yes, please do email it to the entire committee. And I'm led to understand that this is only DOT items or DOT joint items with other agencies.
Precisely.
Right. I think what happened is I kind of filtered it to freeze the top. That's what happened, Florence. I do have your Excel open, but I froze the top. I froze. It looked different because I froze the top cells.
Okay, I'll get rid of mine. Stop share.
Yeah, so I did have the right one. And so.
Oh, I see what you did. It's an overlay.
Am I sharing now? Anyone?
Yes.
Okay, wow. So this is the same Excel you sent me, but I froze the top. Oh, wow, maybe not. Going crazy here. Freeze.
Top view.
Freeze, right here. Okay, top row is frozen. So, this is the one. Item 1 is lighting on Hallett's Cove. Item 2 is reconstruction of 32nd Street off Ditmars to dead end of 32nd Street. This spreadsheet has column I, agency responses per fiscal year 2026 statement of community needs. Did everybody get the 4 documents that Amy emailed? Did anybody not get those? Hello? Hi, did you guys hear my question?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we should have all received it, but I just to get the ball rolling, I think what the process. I don't think we intend to hammer out every particular ranking right now, but based on the fact that everyone has this expense sheet sorted by, the DOT asks in either category, capital or expense, that, maybe what would come back to us or to you would be, hey, for any existing item, do I feel like any committee member would say, okay, do I feel like this one should rank up or should it rank down? And then, anything that's existing, we can move accordingly. And then if there's a new ask or a new addition to the list, I know I saw in the email that like we're supposed to kind of cull this down, but I take it that'll happen at the full board. But if at least our committee members have an idea for something that they think should be on the list that, separately they could note, okay, we want this new one there. But, the idea is not to have everyone say like, oh, I want these to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rank. I think that would be kind of take a lot of time and we're all busy and we're doing this stuff after work. So, if someone feels like something's more important, just a note to like rank it up, or if something's less important, to rank it down, and then separately like what should be new. And then that's where you and the board office and Amy kind of comes in after that.
That's fine, for sure. That I didn't mean to put too much work on anyone. I just think that in my eyes, it's kind of simpler to just rearrange them in the order of preference than try to just be vague and say, move this one up and move this one down. But I do understand that it may take significantly more time. I kind of thought either way would be a pretty quick process, but I appreciate what you're saying. So basically any email back to the board office is appreciated. So if every member of the committee could look this over and send any type of clear alteration of the ranking that you see in the email that you're going to get from Florence, it would be appreciated. Then we'll take that and we'll put it in a new ranking based on those emails received. I think it would be a good idea to stop and see if anybody has any new suggestions, as we did last year.
Through the chair.
Hello.
Hi. So because the system is new, it is more cumbersome than it's been in years past, because what you need to do is you need to look at the list, and there are certain things that are paid for that you can actually remove and open up the space. And then there are things that they said to remove that you do not need to remove, because last year, the people who were running the program only had certain choices for the agencies to answer, and I can help you with that.
So I think what we'll do, I think what we'll do, Florence, if I could just say, is we'll rank the ones that we see, and then if any of them are obsolete or intended to be obsolete for any reason, we can remove them then after that.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
That's what Amy did last year as well. So I think it's like, I don't want to kind of overcomplicate this, but I think, people can let you know, Dom, what it is that they kind of want to see and rank, and can organize that.
It's not the same system.
I'm sorry, Lawrence, I'm talking, please. And then I think you can, like Amy is trying to kind of, spearhead and drive this process too. So, and she didn't send it to everybody. She sent it to Dom, I believe is the case. So I think all the chairs got the information, but she set it up so that on that spreadsheet for FY27, she put in what was in there last year, and then you can get people's input and kind of rearrange those, and if you haven't removed it, she'll remove anything that's kind of obsolete or already funded or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it looks like I incompetently closed everything, so I'm just opening up my Excel again. But does anybody have an interest in reviewing these items now, or should we just let you review them off screen and then make your comments to Florence, and she'll forward them to me, Nas and I? Does anybody want to see it? It's 8:15. I could call it, but I'm open to opinions.
Sorry, just one more thing, Dom. Like we're on a deadline with this, so maybe let's say, I don't know, if we can get responses within 2 weeks, then there's some time to, reorganize everything afterwards based on that.
I'm personally away October 1st to the 12th, so I would love to get today is the 10th. If we could get responses by the 22nd would be great. So yeah, that works. That works. 2 weeks.
Just suggestion, whatever timeline works.
Our next meeting is the 16th, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's say the 22nd, okay? Gives people the second weekend if needed, to finish this. So could we have all responses by the 22nd of September? Does anyone have a problem with that? Sooner would be.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, great. All right. On another new, a new business, I guess. There was an email received from the from Nicole of the DOT saying that they're changing their schedule in the implementation of the 19th Avenue safety implementations. I don't have it handy, but it basically said they were proceeding with the implementations east of, I'd have to look at the map. Evie, do you remember east of 81st Street on 19th Avenue? I think that's not right. I think it's east of, I gotta pull up.
Hazen.
East of Hazen, so it wraps to the east and then down the street that I think is 81st. I live on the opposite end of the district, but I think that's 81st Street.
Yes.
You okay?
That they'll be implementing, and then they'll be putting a pause on the
Roach?
Roach.
Oh,
Mario?
Sorry.
Caught you, Mario. You said Roach. Okay, so no worries. So then they'd be putting a pause on the implementations west of Hazen. Is there any other new business? Does anybody know what they'll be doing September 16th?
Full board?
Yes, full
Also
board.
filling out the survey. So yeah,
Oh, yes.
I think just to reiterate, by the 22nd, everyone take a look at the capital expense list and send in your responses in terms of rankings or new items to Dom, copy me too, and then that'll eventually all go to the board office. So by the
No,
22nd.
they have to go through the board office, Nas. They should all come to the board office and the board office will send it to you guys.
Florence, that's actually doesn't have to work that way. Dom and Naz can
Sure it
actually
does.
receive the responses.
It's board business over emails, as you know, open meetings law.
Florence, sending information is not a violation of open meetings law.
That's not what Alan, can we talk offline? That's not what Alan said. Everything usually comes through the server of the board office.
Evie?
And then we send it to the
Florence, may I just say something? Evie, putting that all aside, I would appreciate them to come through Florence to me as a centralized. I don't know if everyone has my email. So Florence, if you could forward those to Nas and I, but let's have everyone email them to Florence, and if that's all right, Evie?
If that's how you want it.
Yeah, I think so. Rather than
yeah, that's a normal practice. It
rather than
works
emails
best.
that I
It's safe.
might miss. But everyone is welcome to email myself on those emails, and I don't mind getting them again. Secondly, from Florence in parallel, if you have my email. So good. Any other items of business? See you on
Sent
this.
everything to the committee. If everybody wants to check while they're on now, it was sent.
I didn't actually catch you. You're
Okay,
saying you sent the
yeah,
email?
I'm seeing the recent document, so yeah, it's at the top of my inbox. So everyone on the committee should probably see that as well. If you don't, let Florence know.
I'm actually
Just got-
checking. Is that what sorry to be. Is that the same 4 docs that
No,
Amy
you want me to send all 4 docs? I just sent the rearrangement slip. I can send all 4. That's so easy.
I think so, Evie.
Okay.
Right? So everyone's in the know on what's going on with the
I'll do it right now.
responses and what and it gives a little bit of good history about the whole process. That's the form called Statement of Community District Needs and Community Board Budget. It introduces, it says the annual statement of community district needs and community board budget requests are charter mandates that form an integral part of the city's budget process. Together, they are intended to support communities in their ongoing consultation with city agencies, elected officials, and other key stakeholders, and influence more informed decision-making on a broad range of local planning and budget priorities. This report also provides a valuable public resource for neighborhood planning and research purposes, and may be used by a variety of audiences seeking info about New York City's diverse communities. So that's a 50-page doc that Florence will send to all of us. Much appreciated.
Right now.
Oh, I don't know if I'm sharing or not. I think I am now. Am I?
No.
I'm not. Okay. I was looking at that. Okay. So, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion.
Second. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks for everything.
See
Good night.
you. Bye.
Thanks.
Night.
Right.